This video is meant to supplement the Word document, syllabus, and course content. There are a lot of details in that Word document, and you'll want to read it very carefully, especially the part that goes over the syllabus, because that's the formal contract between you and I. What I want to do in this video is go over some of the high points in that document, focusing on those things that I think that will be of immediate interest to you. And this first slide, this slide right here, is perhaps one of the most important slides that you're going to see in any video. You're going to be watching a lot of YouTube videos. And what I would suggest is that in each case, you begin by going to the settings wheel. Go to the settings wheel, click on it, and play around with the playback speed. So I don't typically use the normal speed. I spend a lot of time listening to podcasts, and I rarely use the normal speed. What I typically do is change the playback speed almost always to 1.5, occasionally to 1.25, and I would suggest that you do the same because it will make the watching of these videos a lot more efficient and a lot more pleasant. So here we've got some of my ideas about how information can be conveyed in a course. And we can think of the written word versus the spoken word. The written word is really good for transmitting detailed information without error. What it's not so very good at is explaining or emphasizing, whereas the spoken word is good for explaining and also for emphasizing. And in this course, like a lot of courses, like most courses, not all the information is equally important. So to me, I think it's actually going to save you some time if you actually watch the videos, because the videos are going to help emphasize what is important and distinguish that between what is not so important. So in terms of the spoken word, there's either videos or Zoom meetings, and videos have some real advantages. You can do them on your own time. As I said, you can speed up the videos and whip through the parts that are really easy to understand. If you come across something that's not so easy to understand, you can always play back, and you can listen to it again and maybe pick up the information that you missed the first time around. The problem with videos is it doesn't give you an opportunity to answer questions, ask questions, and so that's why we're going to have the Zoom meetings. So at the Zoom meetings, I'm going to be available to answer any questions that you have. Attendance is not required. You can show up or not depending on whether or not you find them useful. So this again is some more of my philosophy in education. And to me, one of the biggest challenges in teaching is to establish what the goals are for the course, what the learning objectives are, and then setting up a series of setting up a series of assessments and providing a series of resourcements that will assure that these goals are accomplished. So when it comes to goals, I put them into these four categories: knowledge, skills, attitudes, and behaviors. And for each one, there's aligned assessments and some available resources. So when I think about some of the knowledge that I want you all to have, I want you to have enough background knowledge that you can solve some very short problems. So you want to be able to solve short problems and also to understand some very important concepts. So in terms of solving short problems, there's lecture notes, there's the lecture note videos that are meant to accompany them, and there are the practice questions. In terms of how your ability to solve short problems is going to be assessed, that's going to be assessed in the lecture exam. There are 10 key concepts, 10 really important things that I want you to understand in this course, and they're shown in Chapter 6. So you can go to Chapter 6 anytime and get a sense of those things that I think are really most important to this course. They too are going to have these available resources, but in terms of assessment, it's really hard to understand, evaluate conceptual understanding with a written exam. There will be oral exams. I'll talk about these more in a bit. Skills, the ability to solve short problems, which, as we saw, have these resources and these assessments. Another skill is the ability to manipulate and plot data, and that's what the labs are all about. So insofar as the labs are concerned, there is a lab manual, and if you go to eClass, you'll find the lab manual, and the way the lab manual is set up, it's got information on all of the labs. So all the labs are combined in one lab manual, but then there are specific videos for each separate lab. And then in addition to the assignments, there will be hints for the lab assignments. So in terms of the assessments, the way that your ability to manipulate and plot data will be assessed is by having you submit these lab assignments. I'd like you to come out of this course with a very positive feeling about statistics. The statistics isn't something to be loathed and feared. On the other, what it really is it's a way of understanding what's going on in the real world that I think if you combine it with your sense of biology will give you a deeper, richer sense of whatever problems you're trying to discover. So how do I do that? How do I get that positive feeling? Well, I'm not really sure, but the best I can come up with is to ensure you that I will be as transparent and as available as possible. Now, there are some professors who get really agitated if someone comes up to them and says, okay, what's going to be in the final exam? I'm not like that. I really don't mind if you come up and ask what's going to be in the final exam. And the reason for that is what I'm trying to do is align the assessments with the goals. I mean, this is a university. Most of the learning that's going to occur is going to occur outside the class when you engage the material on your own. And so what I want to do is have these assessments aligned with the goals, and any clarity that I can provide on the assessment, to me, is going to direct you to engaging with the material in the most useful way. So if you get any questions about exams or tests or anything like that, just feel free to contact me. In terms of behaviors, the real one behavior that I want people to do it, and I really don't think there's anything that I can do to assess this, really, is, for goodness sakes, we have at our avail these really powerful statistical programs that have the ability to produce answers that look really good and are actually really wrong. And to me, the best way to safeguard against that happening is to be sure to visualize your data and make sure what you're seeing when you look at the plotted out data is consistent with what you're seeing with your statistical analysis. My feeling is if your statistical analysis contradicts your sense of biology or the plots of your data, it's very likely that you've made some mistakes in your statistical analysis and you really need to go back and rethink that. So this is just a schedule of activities. So on Wednesday, September the 2nd, the first day of class, we'll have our introductory Zoom meeting, and essentially this one probably is worth going to. So you probably should come here. The other ones maybe not, but probably come here, and that way I can field any questions you have on the course. And then at 2 o'clock on the 2nd, I'll be available via Zoom. So there'll be a Zoom appointment that all you got to do is go to eClass, hit join. You'll be brought into the Zoom room. We'll all be there together, and that will provide me an opportunity to deal with any questions you've got. This is the way that I hope the lab is going to work. I'm hoping that people will come into the lab having already read the lab manual that's relevant for that lab and also watch the lab videos that are relevant for that lab. And then my hope is that during the lab, folks will work on the particular lab assignment. Now, you've actually got a week to complete that assignment, but my hope is that most of you will be able to finish the lab assignment in that one lab session. And that'll give you the entire next week to prepare for the next lab session, so on and so forth. Now, you don't have to come here, but to me, the big advantage of attending this Zoom that focuses on the lab is that from time to time you're going to get stuck in R. And if you're already there in a Zoom meeting, it's going to be much easier for me to get you unstuck than if you have to email me sometime later. Okay, so that's the first day of classes. Subsequently, we'll get together virtually only on Wednesday. So, Mondays, Fridays, you get to sleep in. So what's going to be is just a repeat. At 9 o'clock, we'll have the Zoom session to answer questions. And then during the lab, we can work on the next week's lab. And then the previous week's lab is due. So each lab is due the week following when it was assigned. The written exam is going to be on Friday, October 9th. I'll say some more about that in a bit. And the oral exams will be conducted between Tuesday and Saturday, October 13 and 17. The last lab, Lab 6, that's not due until October 21. So what I wanted to do was give you all sorts of time to prepare for the final written exam, the final oral exam, so you wouldn't be freaking about the last lab. The only downside of this is that I've got to give the TA at least a week to grade. So the grades that you get, the posting of the grades will be delayed. So don't expect to get your grades immediately after the course is done because there is this delay in terms of when that last lab is due. So here's the way the grading is going to be. The lab assignments make up 40% of the grade, the final exam 60% of the grade, and it occurs on the last day of classes. It's going to be open book. As I said before, the written exam is going to focus on knowledge of concepts, will not be tested here. The written exam is going to focus on the calculations. So the written exam is going to be focused on the calculations. So the key to doing well on the written portion, is do the practice questions. Make sure you do the practice questions. The oral exam, between the 13th and the 17th, 1/2 hour, one-on-one between you and I. It's going to be done by Zoom, and it's really going to focus on the 10 key concepts. And the 10 key concepts are presented in Chapter 6, so you can go there anytime and see what those 10 key concepts are. If you look at each chapter in the lecture notes, there are those practice questions at the end. There are some theory-based practice questions. It's probably a good idea to review those to give you a deeper understanding of what's going on in terms of the concepts, but really the exam is going to focus on Chapter 6. If there are any questions about the oral exam, I'd be happy to try to answer them. In terms of the grading of the oral exam, it's going to be graded pass-fail. I trust you, but the one thing I worry about is not deliberate plagiarism, but accidental plagiarism. And this is just something to prevent that accidental plagiarism to occur. I would encourage you to work with your peers, but everything that you submit has to have been typed in by yourself. Anything else, unfortunately, is considered plagiarism. In terms of the letter grades that you reach at the end of the course, this is what you need to get a C+. This is what you need to get at least a B-. Now, assuming you get at least a B-, then this comes into play. This is the approximate grade distribution. So here's the grades and roughly the percentage of students that I expect will get that. This is only a rough starting point. I'm just going to start here. Then I'm going to make an assessment based on absolute performance and natural breaking points. Whatever grades I assign are tentative. They're not final until they've been approved by the chair. And that's pretty much it.